Welcome back to Explaining Everything, the channel where we dig into the stories and mysteries behind the things we use every day. Today's question comes from one of our brilliant viewers, Samantha Rocks 22. Thanks for the suggestion, Samantha. You asked, who is the creator behind the iconic symbols on playing cards? If you've ever picked up a deck of cards and wondered why hearts look like, well, hearts, or why spades are all leafy and sharp, you're in for a treat. Stick around as we explore the fascinating tale of the symbols on playing cards, right here on Explaining Everything. So, first things first, let's talk about where playing cards came from. It turns out that playing cards didn't originate from some magical land of royal court jesters and troubadours. In fact, playing cards first appeared in China around the 9th century during the Tang dynasty. I mean, who knew that our favorite pastime started with some emperors having a good time with paper cards? Just imagine a bunch of Chinese nobles sitting around saying, "Let's create a game that's as confusing as possible for future generations to figure out." But here's the kicker. These first playing cards didn't look anything like the decks we use today. They were just plain paper cards with no fancy symbols, no royal faces, and definitely no jokers. Well, except for the one in every family gathering who pretends they know how to play poker, but is just there for the snacks. But as time went on, playing cards began their epic journey through different parts of the world, with the design evolving and becoming more and more, well, stylish. By the 15th century, playing cards had made their way to Europe, where they were totally reinvented by the French. I mean, those guys know how to make anything look chic. You've got French wine, French fries, French toast, and now French playing cards. So, this is where things start to get really interesting. In the early days of European playing cards, you had suits like cups, swords, and coins. Sounds like a medieval flea market, right? But the French, ever the trendsetters, decided to ditch the old-school medieval suits and switch things up. Enter the iconic spades, hearts, diamonds, and clubs we know today. And, for the record, this wasn't just a random decision. Oh no, they had a method to the madness. So why these suits? Let's break it down. The heart? Love, obviously. The club? It's a weapon, symbolizing strength. The diamond? Wealth and power, 'cause what says I've made it like a shiny rock? And then the spade. Now, you might think that's the odd one out, but nope. The spade was actually based on the shape of a medieval weapon, the pike, representing the nobility and the military. Kind of a cool flex, right? You know, just in case you wanted to add a little I'm royalty vibe to your game of Go Fish. Now, you might be asking, but who exactly decided that hearts should look like? Well, hearts, that would be one of the most famous printers in history. A French guy named Jean de La Salle. He was like the designer behind the modern French playing cards, and as far as we know, he's the one who decided these suits would look the way they do today. So, when you shuffle that deck, you're basically holding the work of a 15th century French graphic designer. But the symbolism doesn't end there. By the time playing cards spread across Europe, each country decided to make slight tweaks to the design. For example, in England, the suits took on new shapes and meanings, adding their own little flavor to the deck. So, the designs and symbols were slowly but surely becoming a global sensation. Who would have thought that something as simple as a deck of cards would have a legacy so rich in culture and symbolism? Now, let's talk about those fancy royal faces, your kings, queens, and jacks. These guys, with their flamboyant robes and fancy hats, also have some history behind them. Fun fact, did you know the face cards aren't actually representing real monarchs? Well, maybe a little bit, but the truth is, the face cards are based on certain ideals and archetypes rather than specific kings and queens from history. The King of Hearts, for example, is said to represent Charlemagne, the Emperor of the Holy Roman Empire. The King of Spades, that's supposed to be King David, the biblical figure. The King of Diamonds is supposed to represent Julius Caesar? Yeah, the et tu, brute guy. And the King of Clubs? No one really knows, but the story goes that it's a combination of multiple historical kings who were badass enough to be immortalized as playing cards. These royals were like the celebrities of their time, and we're still dealing their faces around today. As for the queens, we've got a similar situation. The Queen of Hearts represents Queen Elizabeth I. The Queen of Spades is said to be the queen of a different region, and the Queen of Clubs? Well, I'll let you guess who she was. Now, we can't leave out the one card that never quite fits in, the Joker. This card wasn't even part of the deck originally. It was introduced in the 1860s as part of a new game called euchre, a trick-taking game that sounds way too fancy for a simple night of cards. The Joker is just the wild card of the royal family. Who could have predicted that a card designed to be the king of chaos would end up causing more confusion and headache than an entire game of Monopoly? But hey, that's what makes it fun. And with a few royal face-offs in between, playing cards have had quite the journey. They've gone from simple paper with no symbols to the stunning, slightly quirky symbols we use today. Next time you sit down with a deck of cards, just remember, you're not just playing a game, you're holding a piece of history. And that's how the iconic symbols on playing cards came to be. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on our next deep dive. Also, if you have suggestions for our next video, feel free to share them in the comments below. We'll be sure to give you an acknowledgement for your awesome contribution. Thank you for tuning in, and join us next time here in the channel that answers all the why, what, who, where, and how questions you've always wondered about, here on Explaining Everything.